of franchising. Pillars, pillars, pillars of franchising.
Good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of Pillars of Franchising. I'm your host, Kristin Selmeczy, and with me today is Karen Kimsey-Sward. We've got a great guest for you today. We're going to talk to Chris Coleman of True North Restoration. I apologize, I'm coming to you with a cold today, so please bear with me. But first, before we get to Chris, let's talk about word on the street, Karen.
Sounds good to me. Been scouring, trying to find some new news out there. And
yeah, it seemed a little quiet at first, didn't it?
I know. There wasn't much going on. And one of the things I was taking a look at, I was looking at National Restaurant News, and they always have some good articles. And there's been so much about the economy, the impact of the economy in restaurants, the food service business. And I always like to look for good news, because there's always there always seems to be not so good news these past months, especially third quarter. So I found some glimmer of good news.
Really? What did you find? Do tell.
I did. So, most of the restaurants, have seen really kind of a decline in kind of traffic gains.
Yeah.
And so two restaurants that are kind of different from each other have reported traffic gains over 4%. And I'm not going to let you guess, because we've already talked about this. Those two restaurants are Chipotle and Texas Roadhouse. And I just thought that was an odd combination, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. Because you and I agreed, I go to both, you don't necessarily go to both. And so we tried to figure out between the two of us, what are some of the things that they're doing differently?
Exactly. And so I loved it, because the article, one of the things I thought was interesting is they always say when there's if there's a recession, and when they talked about 2008 and 9, and even now, a lot of restaurants start focusing on value meals, discounts, coupons. And what's interesting is these two restaurants, or these two groups, they don't focus on that.
No, they don't.
Look at the value a different way.
Yeah. And what's interesting about that is that, I can't say that their prices have not gone up and their portions have gotten smaller, because I have noticed that. I mean, there's a certain one that I always want lettuce in my bowl, and I have to ask 3 times, can you please take out the rice and just put in the lettuce, right? And so that's just my own little pet peeve. But part of what we saw in this article going forward was a lot of the engagement for one of the brands with digital, right?
Yes. If you think about Chipotle, and I am a frequent visitor to Chipotle. It's right across the street from where I work. And I will tell you, it's not only very convenient, it's fast. And one of the key things, and this is where they really get because I think one of their key audiences, I was taking a look at this, it is 18 to 24. And, I'm not in that age range, I will tell you.
Yeah.
And so it's the mobile, because you could literally pay, you can place your mobile order. And the interesting thing is not that you could just place it. When you go in, they have special staff working on it. How many times have you tried to order something mobile app, and then you go in and you're waiting forever? And they've got a system down where they're taking care of both the customers in the store, which is me, because I don't do the mobile app, but I feel like I get taken care of, and the mobile customers, they're taken care of as well. And I think that's a key thing.
Don't you feel that is one of the things that during COVID positioned some of these companies who embraced it to really help move forward? Because their biggest segment really of dining out for everybody right now, they're saying, is Generation Z. 73% of Gen Z are heavy restaurant users, which is crazy. I mean, I am too, because I'm lazy. I don't like to cook, but even they're finding ways to cut back, right? And so I think that as we talked about all these mobile apps and things, if you could go up and at McDonald's, I go and they go, "Are you using your mobile app today?" And I always fall for it, because I think it's a real person. It's just a recording. Kills me every time. I start talking to them, and then they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, can I help you?" I'm like, "Damn, they got me again."
Exactly.
And I know it's happening, right? But for me, I'm getting kind of mad because I love that if I gave them my mobile code, I would get my iced tea for $1. Well, now they got rid of that option. So now it doesn't matter where I go. Today was to Portillo's. I'm not getting $1 iced tea at McDonald's anymore. So I get a little chapped when they make these offers, they have these promos, and they get rid of them.
Right.
But most people aren't like me. They're not impatient. Most people love that stuff. And what we had talked about, which I think is crazy, is that that's not at all what Texas Roadhouse's model is.
No, I mean, they don't, again, if you take a look at their audience, because I was looking that up, Kristin, you don't fall there, but it's over like, I think 64 or something like that. It's more of the more seasoned people. That's their. So that audience in general, they're not about digital, but they really define value in a different way. So it's not about the coupons, which you might think
right.
that, So it's more about the whole different business model of service. They talk about legendary service.
They sure do.
And they're all about priding themselves on food quality, friendly service, guest satisfaction. And that's what's made them stand out.
I will say, in terms of speed to get my food and the level of service, I like to sit at the bar because there's a lot going on. I can watch the TVs, listen to the music, and watch the funny videos and stuff all at the same time because the ADHD is just fed perfectly in that environment, right? But I'll just order. Next thing you know, there's somebody coming up behind me with my food. And I'm like, whoa, already? Like, I didn't get my taste buds ready. It's really fast. They're all really, really friendly. And the best part about it is when somebody has a birthday, they get to sit on the saddle.
There you go.
Have you got to do that, Karen? Because I know you don't go there, but I think
I've never been.
Yeah.
But I will tell you now, reading this, and now the saddle just sent me over the edge. I'm going to have to go.
I was thinking Ray and I are going to take you there for your next birthday. We're going to take you there in his big old Suburban. We're going to get you on the saddle.
I love it.
Video over the whole thing.
Yeah. So, but if you think about this, that is, I think even, whether it's Chipotle, whether it's Texas Roadhouse, it is about, don't you think, really trying to hone in on what's important to people.
Yes.
And I think some of these brands don't do that.
Yeah.
And then they're cutting people. The food's not that good and it's overpriced. And then they're wondering why they're not doing as well. I'm not saying everybody, but I really applaud these two brands for really focusing on kind of thinking about value in a different way and then just driving that value home to the customers.
Well, and the one value I'll end with this is that one thing I really like about going to Texas Roadhouse is they all have those shirts that say, I love my job. Now, okay, they're forced to pay to wear that, I'm sure, but it really does make you think oh, wow, I wonder how much they really like it. And my kids have friends who work at Chipotle. They love it, not just for the free food, but again, that's about getting your staff, getting them involved, whether it's through feeding them when they're working, whether it's through these fun shirts and they get to sing and hoop and holler and be crazy all day. I mean, that's building that environment where people want to be. And when the employees are having fun, the employees are nice, the consumers want to be there too.
Absolutely.
So, well, hats off to consumers. Jeez Louise. I told you I'm sick. To Chipotle
it's gonna be one of those days.
And to Texas Roadhouse. If I had a cowboy hat, I'd tip it to you. But great job, and hopefully the best of luck for strong fourth quarter sales as well.
Absolutely.
We'll be right back with Chris Coleman and True North Restoration after this.
Hey, franchise owners. How's your local marketing? Do you feel like you could use some help keeping up with your social media posts and comments and reviews? Do you wonder if you could be doing more to attract local customers? Are you able to identify new move-ins to your local area? At Westvine, we help franchisees like you reach more local customers through digital marketing. With daily monitoring, creative content, and ad placement, and customer data intelligence, we'll get your business in front of the people who want your products or services. We also work with franchisors who need an agency to handle the digital marketing for all of their locations. If you're ready to reach more local customers, give us a call at 805-265-5440 or visit us at westvine.com. That's 805-265-5440 or westvine with a Y.com.
And welcome back to another episode of Pillars of Franchising. And as promised, today we bring you Chris Coleman, who's not only the CEO, but the founder of True North Restoration. And I have to tell you, Chris, I love talking to founders because there's something bigger that drives you. Not that all CEOs don't have something that drive you, but when you found a company and you go into franchising it, there's like this overwhelming passion that tends to spill out from your pores. Tell us who you are, how you got here, and all about that crazy passion you have.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for having me. It's an honor to be on the show here. Just real quick, I went through when you invited me to be on. I went back and looked at some of the people that you've had on this podcast in the past and thought, oh my goodness, this is an amazing company. What did I do to deserve this invitation? So some of the people that I'll honestly say that I learned a lot about franchising from the people that you've interviewed before here. So again, thanks for having me. And quick correction, I'm not the CEO, I'm the CFO, Chief Franchise Officer, but yes, one of the co-founders of True North Restoration. You almost gave me a raise here real quick.
Well, you are the founder, so really, I mean, you should be the guy making the money, right?
So yeah, we've got some amazing people, and there certainly is more than me that founded this company. But yeah, it's great to be with you, and an honor to share a little bit more about True North with you.
That's awesome. So Karen and I were talking about your brand as well, of course, before the interview, about what a big market you have. Well, let's before I get into that, I've skipped right past it. How did you come about with True North, and what really drove you to franchise a model like this?
Yeah, so I probably got a little bit of an interesting background when it comes to, being a franchise founder, because for 12 years, I was actually a franchise consultant / broker, whatever term you want to use there. Mm-hmm. So I had what I thought was a really unique perspective, because franchisors would come to the conferences and all the events that I would be at. And it was almost like they were lobbyists and saying, "Hey, this is why you pitch me to your clients."
Yes.
So I got to see like the really, really good stuff, and I got to see some of the ugly stuff in franchising.
Yeah.
And for many years that I was with the FranNet organization, uh-huh. And I even had the opportunity to be on their inventory committee. So when a young franchisor was wanting to grow and leverage broker networks, we would get a first crack at them and give them a thumbs up or a thumbs down if they were a fit for broker groups. So yeah, I got to see a lot of different things, and the time just came around when a dear friend of mine, Jay Peters, he had started this company years back in the 80s, at 1985. But we took what he had started, hadn't fully developed into a franchise model, and took my experience in franchising and a couple other business partners, Justin and Raymond Donat, their brothers out of Colorado, and they have a strong restoration background. And Jay said, "Hey, I've got some guys that I've trained in this space. Kind of some of them are doing restoration, some of them were doing carpet cleaning. So we kind of we flipped their model, we flipped their name, we made them become franchisee. We didn't make them; they joined us, obviously. We made them sign, all the paperwork, obviously, but they joined us. It was 6 people, 6 existing businesses were our first 6 franchisees, and they all signed with us over a course of about 6 months.
Wow.
So we had a quick little ramp up, and so that's kind of the 30,000 foot view of how True North got started.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I love it because, especially when you had all this background. And so that means you must be really bullish on franchising.
Very, yeah.
Right?
I grew up in franchising. My dad and uncle, you were talking about food. My dad and uncle owned several pizza franchises growing up.
Okay. Yeah.
And so my first exposure into franchising was a busboy, an unpaid busboy, I think, actually. Yeah. So I got to play pole position in my dad's restaurant. That was my pay, or the Bear Claw. They opened it up for me at the end of the night. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's funny. Oh, go ahead, Kristin. Go ahead. I bet you're going to ask the same question I am.
I'll go ahead.
Talking about, right? It was about we were talking about, so you've entered this industry, and this industry has so many big players in it. And that's got to be pretty daunting. So how do you differentiate yourself from others?
Well, the thing that is amazing about franchising, and with you guys on the call here, this just as well as anybody. Franchising, you have competitors, but you don't at the same time, because franchising, the industry is just, how can I help you? Now, to some extent, there's a little bit of, love you with the elbows out, but there's, it's really interesting. Even some of our competitors, when I went to them, because I knew a lot of our competitors, because I had shown their brands as a consultant over the years. I helped put people into restoration franchises. So yes, I was bullish on the industry. But when I went to some of the competitors that I've known, established relationships with, they just kind of reached out and said, "Hey, I can help you. We'll get you started." There's, when you put all the restoration companies together, and you take the big names out there, we call them the green guys and the yellow guys. Yeah, they're the big ones.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say their names out loud, but I hold them in high regard. But even with them having almost 4,000 locations, and then everybody else, lumped together, we still collectively in franchising only do a little more than 20% of the restoration work out there. So there's a lot of room for growth. And even the competitors say, "Come on in. There's room in this space for good franchise companies in restoration."
Well, I would think, especially after you have some of these natural disasters and you have such a dense population of people who are impacted. I mean, those send your staffing models off the charts. And so the more people who can do what you do is, critical at those points in times.
Oh yeah, great point. And we've got great relationships with many of our competitors where we call them up and say, "Hey, are you like with the fires that happened in Maui, just absolutely devastating stuff that happened there. Are you guys going?" Well, there's not a lot for restoration companies to do there. It was just total destruction. So just, like I said, horrible what happened there. But other scenarios, you take like, a hurricane that hit Fort Myers last fall. We were working with other ones like, "Hey guys, we're busy. We can't, we're a young franchise. All of our franchisees are here and we're maxed out. Do you want some leads and referrals?" And we take care of each other.
That's awesome. So how do you differentiate yourself? Because again, as a broker, like I would want to know as a broker, how do I position you against some of the other guys, the green guys, the yellow guys, to make your brand really stand out?
Yeah, no, good question. It's interesting because, we all use the same drying techniques for the most part. We're all trained by the IICRC and have those certifications. We use the same equipment. It comes from the same places. It's just sometimes they're different colors. So you're right. How do you differentiate yourself? What we do is, I would say that there's a handful of things that make us a differentiator. I would say one of the things that draws a lot of people to us as a franchise candidate is just the fact that we're a faith-based company. So that is something, that's who we are. It's certainly not a qualifier for franchise ownership. But we do have some practices that we say, "Hey, we open a lot of our meetings with our franchisees even in prayer," and it's it's not for everybody, but it's who we are. So I would say that's a differentiator. Where there's a lot of franchises out there that are, but I've been told that we wear it on our sleeve a little bit more, which, hey, again, that's who we are. So that's one thing that kind of makes us a little different. Another thing that makes us a little different, and this is where the franchise consultant, background comes into play for me. Now that I'm on this side of the fence, we don't go out and do 3 packs, 10 packs, 400 packs.
Yeah.
Now that might make we have done 1 3-pack out of 16 locations. And that was for a extremely high qualified, person that just it was ready to sink a lot of money into it, hire a lot of people. Right. But we try to really focus on single territory development. I forget who. I think I was talking to a franchise attorney, probably 10 years ago or so, and I heard a stat on the number of sold but not open franchises that are out there. And I know the SBNO, right?
Yeah,
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. What are the state regulators looking for this year? Um,
exactly.
so, that kind of drove me nuts. And I saw that, early on as a franchise consultant, that a lot of my clients weren't opening up number 3 and 4 and 5. And it just kind of sat really wrong with me. And I thought, let's just kind of focus on giving somebody really, strong territories. So our territories are a little bit bigger than most of our competitors. So that was really kind of a focus. And we also want to try and help them drive a lot of revenue through that. So we do allow our franchisees to take on some larger, we like to call it large loss or catastrophe work,
Okay.
where some of our competitors would say, no, you have to hand that off to maybe a sister company or a more mature franchisee. So a lot of times what we'll do is we'll partner up a newer franchisee with the mature franchisee to run a large loss, because that helps them scale the business pretty quickly usually. So
Interesting. And
that's another differentiator there.
yeah, yeah. And I didn't realize that some of those ask that their franchisees at a certain point use a sister company, whatever. And that's our, because I'm part of the Neighborly brands, right? So we've got all kinds of brothers
Yeah.
and sisters and neighbors out there that we refer back and forth. So it's actually a very interesting point that you make. For people who are out there who want to talk to Chris about this, I just want to remind you all that our phone number to call in is 323-580-5755. Again, to call in and speak with Chris or one of us is 323-580-5755. Karen, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No,
Talk
it's
faster there.
great. It's interesting because I wanted to kind of play on even, when you were talking about just the what'd you call it, like some of the larger events or whatever that they take care of. And then I think about one skill that they probably need is to be collaborative, right? Because you're also talking about all the franchisees working together. So if I think about that and we talk about what are some of the kind of skills or the types of franchisees that are people that make great franchisees, some of the skills that they have that you're looking for.
Yeah. And one of the first ones for us, and a lot of times you hear franchisors say, oh, we're looking for, this or that, or somebody that's a heavy driver is going to go out marketing thing. First thing we really kind of eye in on is empathy, because when we're coming across people that have their home or their business damaged, it might be one of the worst days of their lives. You come home, I don't know why, but for whatever reason, it's when people go on vacation and they're gone for 5 to 7 days, they come back with a leak started 30 minutes after they left the house, and their homes are just destroyed. So empathy is something that we are always looking for. We can train on making sure that you get the water out and you get the humidity, you get the environment stabilized. We can train them on that. But it's hard to train on people caring, you know what I mean?
So true.
So that's really one of the things that we really focus in on in our franchise development and our process that we take people through.
So you talked about a little bit how you really work to make sure, and I love the idea that, we always talk about, let's do it right the first time with one unit, and then you can expand, right? Rather than that whole buying a 3-pack, a 10-pack, it really does make me sad, because people are so eager, right? And some come in thinking they're going to change the world, and some come in going, oh, it's so easy. It's, this is a semi-absentee business. I can do this. And then, as you said, they never get those other businesses open. And we've dealt with a few people like that. So when you look at kind of the average unit volume of some of your franchise locations, what are you looking at? What should people kind of wrap their brains about how much business they're going to be doing? Because your tickets are pretty large, right?
Yeah, they can be real large. In our industry, it's not uncommon that somebody that's got even some minor damage in their home, it's $2,000-$3,000, and a lot of times it's closer to $10,000. But it's not uncommon to see things that are 6 figures. So the bigger the home, or a condominium type or apartment situations, things that have multiple stories, multiple tenants. The tickets can be pretty big, and we're in an industry where there's some really good margins. Within our system, and in our item 19, And that was from when we just really first got started. We've got some pretty strong numbers. I think 1.367 ish million.
Ish.
So yeah. So that those are the numbers. But that, like I said, that was only 8 of our locations when we first started getting up and getting running. We've since doubled in size, and I can't wait for our new item 19 to come out in the spring.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like, I'm calling my franchise attorney, like, can we do it
quicker?
An amendment? Can I do a note real quick or something on this? Because
It's always fun when you're thinking that way. That's great.
It is, yeah. So
Yeah.
can you tell us a little bit, anything that's disclosed in the FDD where people are like, this sounds really good. I'd love to do it. Great unit sales, but what can I actually make off of it?
Yeah. So, well, we don't have any nets in that. So I'm
Right.
almost, I've been coached by my attorney, not
Yeah,
what to say,
exactly.
not to say.
But your gross margins are around.
Yeah. Yeah. No, gross and net, I think it's fairly safe to say you can even go out and Google this and find it, or chat GPT it. I don't know what the verb will be there in 5 years from now. Google so yesterday.
Yeah,
But,
right.
it's pretty common in our industry that, a business can net 20-25% if they run a clean business.
That's good, because a lot of people, they think about, not only do they have the money to invest, which will be our next cue for the question, but
Sure.
do they have enough money to invest? Do they have enough money to survive until they're at break even, right? And then really, what kind of income should they expect to replace if they're giving up their corporate job or, some other job to buy into this? So I think it's always really important to have those honest conversations. So people say, well, in some of these industries, you invest, $100,000, and for the first 3 years, you might make $25,000. Well, that's a bad deal, when you're giving up an $80,000 a year job. So, So in a roundabout way, I appreciate you answering that so that we could kind of get to that point. So can you tell us, what does somebody need to have to invest in a True North restoration?
Yeah. So we put together an $80,000 liquidity requirement and a $250,000 net worth requirement. Now those are pretty low numbers when you look at. And I've worked with thousands of people over the course of the last 15 years that have been interested in buying a franchise as a consultant. So I know that there's a lot of people out there that's like, hey, that's a fairly low bar, but it's not for everybody. So what we do, and we tend to be an equipment heavy business. We don't have tons of employees and high payrolls, things like that. We don't have retail locations, so it's a fairly low investment. Overall, I like to block things off. We're a $100,000 to $200,000 investment roughly. Our item 19 will show under, or our investment shows under. It's like, I think it's actually 93 to 187.
Yeah.
But in reality, somebody's probably going to get into this type of a business and spend 125, 150 to get going.
Yeah.
I think one of the other things that really attracted me to this industry is that you can start really, really lean with a small location, even a small equipment package, and the jobs, as you land a job, you can say, okay, I don't have enough. I'm going to say yes to the job. And I know that I can have, the 6 dehumidifiers that I need, within 24, 48 hours from a supplier. And we put all those things in place and have negotiated rates for our franchisees to be able to scale up very quickly.
That's awesome.
And even from a large law standpoint, if they need to scale up, we have some national relationships on the temporary staffing as well. So able to,
how long does it take to get someone then to get their business to break even? Because you're talking they scale up fast. What would that length of time be?
Yeah, we've had franchisees do it in month 1.
Wow.
So yeah, so average though, right?
Right.
It's always good
average.
to to throw the Hail Mary and show the catch in slow motion. Like, yeah, that's great. But no, it's on average, I think you can see in the industry, again, it's not in our item 19, but it's very common if you just do some simple search online. that if you run real lean business to get started, and that's what we coach our franchisees to do, you can break even in 3 to 6 months,
Wow, that's awesome.
So again, kind of coming back to some of the higher margins, the higher tickets that we run, and like I said, a low labor model, and the ability to scale real quickly. And like I said, we're not collecting on a lot of franchise fees. We're actually saying, save that money, use it for marketing, save that money, use it for equipment or something else.
That's awesome.
Really, I'm interested. So start thinking about this, because you said that they don't need that many employees, and they don't, so then are they truly a franchisee that is working in the business? I mean, they're the ones then that are there on, on location, kind of doing some of the work? Or kind of tell me, how does that work? Because, some franchisees will say, as Kristin said, they just want to be kind of absent. This isn't obviously this isn't a type of franchise like that, but are they the ones that are on call 24/7? Are they the ones that are there?
Yeah, no, good question. And I would even say, is there actually a single semi-absentee franchise out there?
Okay, yes, we agree with that.
I know.
We agree.
I used to teach a class in St. Louis at one of the local colleges, in partnership with the SBA and SBDC in that market, and it was about semi-absentee franchising, and I challenged that because franchisors have gotten very, very loose with that term. I would say in the last 5 to 10 years.
We do agree.
Even more so, I'd say the last 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's their marketing, right?
Yeah, they are. They're selling, and that's, it's good to grow, but do it ethically too. So, Karen, you asked a question, and I went down a rabbit hole, and
that's okay. That's okay.
Remind me your question again,
because we're always trying to figure that out too. Because people talk about that, and then how you were describing this, I'm like, no, this is somebody that really.
Oh yeah, the owner's role
in the business.
Yes.
Yeah. So, we do have the ability, a little bit of a hybrid option. So some of our franchisees will want to, just kind of be in the trenches. And let's be honest, we're not in a glamorous business. When pipes back up and basements fill up, and it's not glorious until you get paid. But so a lot of people that are have been high up in the food chain and the C-suite, they might not find what we do very appetizing. But we do want them to really have an understanding of what the business is like, but we want to get them out, if they do go into that, as a little bit more hands-on in the beginning with just 2 or 3 employees. We want to get them out of that role pretty quickly and help them, I know it's cliche to say it, but work on the business, not in it. Yep. But that's really what we want them to do. But we do have the ability to help somebody who is, maybe has the ability financially to come in, hire a general manager, hire some marketers, hire project managers, lead technicians, things like that. They want to scale that. And we've got one franchise location that we're doing that with right now as well. But that gives them the ability not to be in the trenches, not to be there answering the phone 24/7. But like I said, this is a business that can scale pretty quickly. So, our goal is to get them out of that role.
Well, 17 years ago, when I chose my cleaning toilets job, I will say that one of the businesses that my broker pitched me was restoration. And I had come out of the home improvement industry. People were freaking out because they're having a kitchen remodel that didn't finish on time, right? And, companies coming, and I was like, oh my gosh, kind of traumatized. So when she talked about restoration, I thought, oh my gosh, I can't go into this situation where people are like freaking out on me 24/7 because these